Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk to you guys about the three new uniforms for these three characters: Silk, Thor, and Sif. I already picked up Silk and Thor's uniform, so I have a pretty good idea of just how worthy and how valuable they are for you guys to make better decisions based on that. And I haven't had personal experience yet with Sif's uniform, but I have tested it out quite a bit in the skill preview, so I think I have a pretty good idea of where it stands in terms of its value overall. Now, I do want to say, before we get into the actual discussion of the uniforms, I know this is probably not the best topic to discuss right away, or it's probably not what most people are most anxious to know about and to hear about. However, the things that are most pertinent right now in the game are also things that I'm still learning, and so I don't want to make a video for you guys about, for example, the co-op world boss, because I still am not 100% clear how that works. And so I don't want to give you guys false information. I don't want to make a video that's incomplete or that is missing information or has the wrong information, because then I'll just have to go back and revisit and make another video for that, and that's just going to be a waste of everyone's time. So that's why I'm starting with the uniforms. It's still a pretty fun topic to discuss. There are a lot of really important changes that these uniforms bring about. There are some that could potentially impact the meta in some way, and these are beloved characters. I mean, Thor and Silk are very high on a lot of people's lists, Sif to a lesser degree. So I thought that they got their dues with these uniforms, and so I wanted to cover that for you guys. Moving forward, I will be covering everything top to bottom that the new patch has given us with the Asgardian update. But in order to maybe guide myself a little bit more on where I should focus the next video, so for tomorrow's video, why don't you guys let me know in the comments what you're most confused about or what you're struggling the most with right now. Just gonna say right away, just to clear it up, guys, you cannot clear 12-8 with tier 1 dumpster characters. You're gonna need tier 2 characters. You're probably gonna need Thanos or Doctor Strange. So, you know, don't come at me with this, my tier 1 Venom can't clear 12-8. I'm mad. What's up, bro? Because you have a tier 1 Venom, that's why. Moving on, guys, to the uniforms themselves. I originally thought that Unworthy Thor was going to be a new character. I was wrong, whatever. He is now a uniform, and what an awesome uniform this is. I hated the Avengers Age of Ultron uniform, and this one is so much more badass. I mean, this is basically ripped straight out of the comics, looks amazing, and we're going to talk about it very soon because it performs amazingly. So it reduces all of his damage received by 15%, which is an excellent uniform bonus. One of the best defensive uniforms I've ever seen. I'd argue it's better than Groot's uniform bonus, and it also adds the 10% to all stats as well. So very, very tanky. Probably what Thor needed, especially given the changes to Thundering Maelstrom. Now, on top of that, you guys can see here 4 of his skills have had their animations changed. So we're going to talk about what that means. Just keep in mind, whether you have Thor's uniform or not, Thundering Maelstrom will still guard for a certain number of hits. So you don't have to have the uniform to have that in place. But there are a lot of skill changes given Thor's uniform. So let's go and take a look at it and see what is up with the new uniform. So unfortunately, Thor doesn't get any iframes with this new uniform, but he does get a considerable jump in his AoE skills, which is a lot considering he already had pretty decent AoEs. So the first skill is pretty much exactly the same. It's a movement skill with a jump. It's got a few extra hits there tacked on at the end, which is nice, but nothing special. His 2-star is quite a bit different. He does a long spin that ends up with kind of an uppercut. Pretty bad skill. The only thing that's good about it is that he moves, so it kind of could get him out of the way of meteors in Alliance battle, or, you know, move one character or both characters into a corner in Shadowland, but still not very good. The 3-star skill is pretty much exactly the same as its non-uniform counterpart, except I believe the AoE is bigger. It looks like it has more lightning strikes in it than the other uniform or non-uniform skills. Then we get into the more interesting changes. The 4 skill is way different, and it's fucking awesome. So the 4 skill used to just be Thor pointing up his hammer and calling down some lightning. Now, Unworthy Thor throws these piercing waves, 2 piercing waves, and then he smashes the ground for a pretty sizable AoE attack, which is excellent. So it's not an iframe, it leaves him open to damage. Remember that he's got 15% reduced damage with this uniform on, which is going to really help. But also these piercing attacks are very, very useful because they're going to hit all the enemies. So they're going to do a lot of damage overall. The DPS, although it might not be that much as you see it on one individual mob, you got to multiply that by all of the other mobs. So this is going to be a great crowd clear skill, and it's going to really combo well if you do 5 and then 4, because as you guys know, with the change, the 5 skill now will apply a guard, and I mean, we'll talk about the animation in a second, but so it'll guard for 8 hits or like something like that, and then you can go into the 4 pretty safely without losing more than, you know, all of your guard. So you probably still won't take any damage, and it's a pretty comfortable rotation between the 5 and the 4. Let's move on to the 5, because this is the juiciest one of all. Now, with regular Thor, he just jumps up and calls down more lightning. The 5 skill was basically just a rehash of the 4 skill with a little bit more pizzazz to it. But this 5 skill is a fucking monster. So he calls down lightning, and then he smashes the ground and does another AoE. And that's really great. It spins everybody around. It's not an iframe because, as you can see here, some of the characters on the fringes of the attack are still blasting me. So you're going to need to group up the mobs before you do this skill, but once you do, they're going to basically be able to do nothing. So this will be an excellent crowd clear, similar I think to like Black Bolt's 6-star skill, just a huge finisher type move, and it's fantastic that it has the guard on it. And I believe the animation is a little bit longer than Thor's non-uniformed skill, but it's got this additional hit with a massive AoE, so what's not to love? I think it just looks so cool. I'm very happy with this uniform. I would probably give this as like a must-buy for any Thor fans. I think if you don't have Thor built up, you can probably pass on this uniform. But if you've got him built up, even at tier 1, this is going to make the character a lot better for Shadowland, even to solo a stage. It might even make him useful in Extreme Alliance Battle. I'm going to have to test it soon, but yeah. Big changes for Thor. Very, very happy with that uniform overall. Next up, we have Silk. Now, yeah, Silk didn't get a lot of skill changes. We'll check it out from the main menu first. She didn't get any, or she only got 1 skill change from this uniform, but what she got instead of a lot of skill changes was a very sizable crowd control change. So she's getting one of her skills, Silk Spinner, changed, and we'll talk about that in a second in the skill preview, but she's getting a 2-second increase to the duration time of her webs, which is crazy. Really massive, guys. If you don't know, on Spider and Fly and also on the Yo-Yo, she webs the opponent. So that means that if they're not web immune or web resist, they will be CC'd. They'll be crowd controlled. And when you're webbed, you can't do anything at all. Now, originally, it was 3 seconds for each. So before, Silk could pretty comfortably CC AI in like Shadowland and stuff like that just by chaining the 1 skill and the 5 skill. Now, I mean, this is insane. You can web an opponent for 10 seconds straight without interruption. This is 5 seconds on 1 skill, then you can comfortably rotate through all the other skills, and then 5 seconds again on the 5 skill. So in competitive modes, even in like Alliance tournaments, tier 2 Silk might be a real thing all of a sudden. Because this kind of webbing is insane. They're webbed forever. It's over. Like, there's no Silk out there who can't rotate through all 5 of her skills. So once she catches you in a web, if she doesn't die or get interrupted by another character, you're done. You're just done. So it's crazy to me, and it really has a lot of potential. I don't know if the potential will ever be realized by the character or by competitive players, but I think probably at least some Koreans are going to try it. And if it succeeds, holy cow, because we already know that, you know, Spider-Man with his Civil War uniform, he got a bonus in his web duration, and that was huge. Silk is getting an even bigger bonus, and Silk is already probably a better DPS than Spider-Man to begin with, and she's got the guard on her 3 skill that Spider-Man doesn't have. So this is a huge change for her, and a very important one, mostly for PvP, not really for PvE. If you're manually playing as Silk anyways and you can web the opponent, you can probably manage without the uniform. But if you ever want to do PvP kind of stuff, or if you just want to have like a really silly, easy Shadowland stage, like I'm sure Silk could easily, at tier 1 even, easily clear, solo clear a Shadowland stage in the high teens. I'm talking like 15, 16, 17, just based on the fact that with this uniform, she has 10 seconds of uninterrupted crowd control. I mean, you'd have to be a doofus to fuck that up. Anyways, guys, onto her 4-star skill change, her 4 skill here. They changed it around quite a bit. So before, if you don't know, just for reference, guys, the original 4 skill was just pull back and attack. Pretty good skill. The animation is a little bit useful at the beginning to get you out of damage and out of the way of harm if the enemy is going to hit you. But the uniformed one is just way, way, way better. She jumps up and she does just a hell of a lot of hits. And look at how much push she does. That's a lot. So that's going to really be good for, again, a mode like Shadowland. It's not really going to be good for something like Alliance Battle, so I don't think she's going to take over in the extreme mode for speed characters, the way that maybe some people are hoping she would. But it seems very, very good for modes where positioning is really important, and it might even be good for like co-op world boss and stuff like that. Who knows? But very cool looking skill. It seems like it's also a partial iframe, not a total iframe, but it might just put her just enough out of the way of harm to not get hit too many times, or maybe just get hit once while she's going into it. But there's enough movement on her part that it's going to be hard for enemies to track her while she's in the middle of doing this skill. As you can see, a lot of those beams from behind me are just missing because I'm just a little bit ahead of their tracking. So overall, I have to say Silk's uniform is very, very strong. It looks very cool as well. But just the CC increase on those 2 skills is absolutely bananas. I mean, you have time to rotate through multiple skills before you get that second layer of webbing down, and it's just going to make her very, very powerful in Timeline, in Shadowland, in Battle World, and even in like Alliance tournaments and stuff like that. So I'm very excited to see some Silk highlights from like, you know, total webbing and stuff like that. It'll be really cool. Very, very happy with that uniform. The last character we are getting a uniform for is Sif, and if you're not familiar with Sif, she recently got a change to her character as well to make her a lot more powerful. They changed around the actual text of some of her skills, so she got a very big boost, so she might be more appealing to some players nowadays. It was her attack edge skill that got its text totally changed. But let's check out how she functioned before her uniform, before we get into the actual uniform. The actual uniform looks really cool, and as far as the animation and as far as the design goes, it changes all 5 of her skill animations, which is a lot, which means it's probably like a whole different character to play. And then the all speed bonus is just a pretty good bonus. It's not great, it's not bad, it's just pretty good. But let's check out how she looks in the skill preview. Before you put on her uniform, Sif has pretty average attack patterns, pretty boring, kind of like Gamora. I would probably liken it best to like a mix between Gamora and Angela. Just like a little bit of movement, a lot of single target DPS, and no iframes, and just, you know, crap kind of all around. Looks cool, is good for Villain Siege and I guess Shadowland, but even in Shadowland there are way better characters. So if you notice, the one thing that kind of stays is there's like kind of a bit of a pierce effect on the 5 skill where it's hitting enemies in the back there. That is pretty much the only thing that stays the same from the non-uniformed to the uniformed version. The uniformed version, I have to say, handles very well. Very, very cool and very crisp, nice animations. So let's see what they are. With the 1 skill, she does a very interesting Elsa-like upside down spin somersault flip thing. I don't know, some gymnast action going on there. Very, very cool. Positions herself behind the character, so that'll be very, very useful as a movement skill to get out of danger, dodge some meteors, etc. The 2-star skill is quite a bit different. She kicks the enemy up and then slaps them down a couple times. Again, very reminiscent of Elsa's kit. The 3-star skill is basically the same, except as you can see, the after effect, or that X damage, is a lot bigger than the other one. So for the other 3-star skill, it's just a line, so that usually only hits 1 enemy. But this one is an X, so it hits usually like 4 or 5 enemies. There I just hit 5. It can hit a lot more enemies if you position it properly. I just hit like 7 there, so very good. And this is the skill that will also take in damage, so you'll probably be using this one a lot. So the fact that they made this a little bit more AoE friendly is very, very good. Her 4 skill also looks very cool. She has a stun. She pops up the characters for a long time. This is some Marvel versus Capcom like juggling here. And then she comes down with a final two-handed slash. Very cool stuff. Definitely challenging Elsa for the Juggle Master of Future Fight. Last but not least, her 5 skill also looks awesome. It's pretty much the same as the other one, except it looks way cooler and it's got more X's. So I think the AoE is a little bit bigger on this one instead of just being straight vertical or horizontal slashes. Those, you know, those sideways ones, those angular ones, I don't know what the word is. Geometry is math. Will probably hit more enemies. So pretty cool stuff. Looks really nice. I like the red color instead of just the generic like bluish white. Overall, I would say that if you play with Sif, you should definitely get this uniform because it basically makes the character an entirely different character. Sif's uniform is akin to like Yondu's uniform or Kingpin's uniform. It doesn't necessarily make the character a lot better in terms of their damage output or something like that, but it does completely radically change the character's playstyle around, and it changes so many of the skills that it feels like you're playing two completely different characters when you slot them with or without the uniforms. It would be nice if she had gotten a type change to Universal to reflect the other Asgardian characters. Unfortunately, we don't get that with the uniform, but I do think that it is a pretty good investment for anybody who builds up their Sif. If you're not building up your Sif, you can probably just pass on this uniform because she's not that strong of a character anyways. But for those of you already invested, it's a very nice addition, and it'll make the character a lot more fun to play, and it'll feel a lot cooler to play as Sif. So those are my reviews for the 3 uniforms. I would probably rank them 1, 2, 3 in the way that you see them now in the order. So obviously Silk's would be number 1, Thor's would be number 2, and Sif's would be number 3. I do that just because Silk is still the best character out of these 3. So naturally her uniform will be more valuable, and it will have more utility for players that pick it up versus Thor's or Sif's. But it's a lot closer between Silk and Thor than it is for Thor and Sif. So take that into consideration. I didn't really hesitate to pick up either of those because they look amazing. The animations and the detail and the graphics are just fantastic. I mean, there's a bit of camel toe going on here. It looks kind of funny. But other than that, these uniforms are just fantastic. And so if you haven't picked them up already, you can check them out over here. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.